Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crossover Podcast. My name is David Shynock. It has been a full week since the last upload. It has been one hell of a week with month close, and obviously January is a very busy time for accountants, but I ain't going to bore you with the whole accounting details. More importantly, I'm already messing this up. This is fun. The beginning of the LCS season is finally upon us. It has been way too damn long since the last time that we got to watch competitive League of Legends. I was even watching amateur last night, which shout out to, I think it was like Dokla, Winston, Apollo, and a few others that won an amateur tournament, which I'm glad they won, but I was kind of hoping they would lose. I wanted to see C9's amateur team actually step up and possibly win there. I don't know, just seeing more upsets of like recycled LCS talent would be really good to see for the scene, and it would kind of help push the narrative of, maybe we are getting better with our younger talent, but alas, not much you can do in that regard. So one of the biggest changes to the LCS season is that we are now having the lock-in tournament, which groups were just drawn. So quick summary of the format. You have two groups of 5. The lowest place or 5th place does not get out. Top 4 go into a bracket stage for $150,000. Pretty cut and dry, but the groups are actually really interesting, which let me just make sure I pull this up because I have the schedule up, but I don't want to misspeak on any of the pick or any of the groups or any of the people in that regard. So in Group A, and Coco's humping my foot. Great. Group A, we have TSM, Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, CLG, Golden Guardians. Group B, FlyQuest, Cloud9, Evil Geniuses, Dignitas with the new alien logo, and Immortals. Immortals, I was just told yesterday, is using their Academy roster because it feels, I guess it's just 2019 Optic all over again, where they can't get their main roster in the country in time. Understandable due to COVID restrictions and everything else going on there. It sucks. You hate to see it, but it just is what it is. So Immortals, I'm not really going to dive into them much because there's no sense talking about the Academy team and any possible upsets there because it's realistically not going to happen. I'll address it next weekend if for some reason it does. I'll start with Group B because I think that's the less interesting group. Cloud9 should be heavy favorites here. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. I can't think of a way. I mean, the thing with Evil Geniuses is you have a lot of good players. You have Impact, Svensgaren. I'm not even going to mention Jizuke, but then you have Deathly, and then who's their support now? It's not Zazel still. No, who'd they pick up? I'm pretty sure Evil Genius is just imported. Oh, it's Ignar. The biggest question mark is still Jizuke for me. And when you pit them up against Cloud9, Blabber is equal to Svensgaren, in my opinion. And Blabber has higher highs, but Svensgaren is more consistent. At the end of the day, I put them about equal. Fudge, we have no clue on, but if you believe the hype, he's better than Impact. Then Deathly and Ignar versus Sven and Vulcan. Ignar and Vulcan, I would actually put right about the same level. Deathly, though, is way behind Sven, and then it's just a mid gap between Perks and Jizuke. Like, it's not even close. So, you have to give it to Cloud9 on that one. What I find interesting about FlyQuest is you have 3 former players from Cloud9 Academy. So they know Cloud9 very well and how the roster is. Granted, obviously, coaching has changed, etc. But you do learn player tendencies, which it's kind of a fairy tale scenario where FlyQuest upsets Cloud9 in any of the best of ones. But in my mind, it plays out where Cloud9 gets cocky, goes in to beat up on their little brother in FlyQuest, and FlyQuest just knows the tendencies a little too well, catches them off guard, and can snowball it from there. Like that, it could happen. It's like a 10% chance of that happening. but it could. I mean, yeah, I guess. I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on Evil Geniuses as number 2. I could see FlyQuest being second in this group, which, by the way, I think would be phenomenal. I do want to see FlyQuest do well this year because it will help reinforce that Academy talent is actually good, like top tier Academy talent is actually good. But I don't know. Evil Geniuses has obviously a lot of big name players, but I don't find myself rooting for them other than Ignar because I just like his aggro playstyle. So my prediction for this, if I had to bet with my heart and then bet with my mind, if I had to bet with my heart, it's C9 FlyQuest, Evil Geniuses, Dignitas Immortals. If I was betting with my that was my mind. My heart would be C9 FlyQuest, Evil Geniuses, Dignitas Immortals. Sorry, Immortals. No way I'm putting you above Dig, even if Dig plays like crap. Group A, though, is phenomenal because we have no clue how TSM is going to perform. Sword Art just recently got here, I believe. It's lost his ADC, which we've seen bits and pieces of. It's, he's good, but he's not great. I would argue about even with Double Lift from the end of last year because Double Lift was not playing well at all. Then Power of Evil is very good in mid lane. Spica Jungle was pretty good at the end of last split, but we need to see another good split to fully back up whether that will be whether his performance in spring is going to roll over to future splits, or will we have a repeat of the Kane game, if anybody remembers that. And then Huni top is just the guy is okay. What I find amazing about Huni is he doesn't have an agent to our knowledge, and I thought I read that on Twitter from one of the people, either from Riot or that reports within the scene. Huni has negotiated all of these contracts on his own. That's incredible. Like, that's absolutely incredible. He's been on every major team from from Korea, from North America, and from Europe. He was on Fnatic. He was on now TSM, and he was on SKT. Like, what? How's he still doing this? I hope he plays well by all means. But when you look at who he's going to be playing up against, TL is going to be the favorite in this group because of the sheer raw power, I believe. So you have Alfari, you have why am I forgetting his name? He was the old TSM. He was FlyQuest jungler. How am I forgetting his name? Oh, I can even picture his face. Oh, God, this is going to kill me. I don't want to look it up. This is going to be really embarrassing. Wow, I'll get back to it and hopefully remember for the life of me. Jensen in the mid lane, and then still Tactical Core JJ in bot lane. What's interesting is Core JJ is clearly the number one support in the league, like without question. I don't think anybody can argue that. But I wouldn't put them as the best bot lane. I mean, if we're going by performance, you have to put FBI and Huhi ahead of them. My apologies. They performed. FBI and Huhi played so well last split, and the only reason they lost was FBI made a rookie mistake. And okay, well, that's not the only reason, but that's the most notable memory from that game. So it's hard to say. I mean, they definitely. I don't know. See, it's tough because when you compare Alfari to Someday, when Someday's playing at his best and Alfari's playing at his best, it's an even match without question. And no other top laner in this group compares. I don't even know who Golden Guardian's top laner is. But then for CLG, it's Finn. For TSM, Huni. No, neither one of those two compare. So I'm hoping. Jesus, Coco, stop tearing up my hand. I'm hoping for the best, but I'm kind of getting off track in that regard. I would say, which, by the way, random side tangent here. Podcasting solo may be one of the hardest things I think I've ever done in my life because you don't have anybody to bounce ideas off of and keep yourself in check. So it feels like you go down random tangents that may or may not be relevant, and you don't have a guest to keep it on, because when, say, I'm talking to Zebra or somebody else, I'm always thinking about what they're going to say and trying to plot ahead of the conversation and keep track of it that way. But when you're doing it solo, dear God, is it hard to really keep yourself in check, because you don't have time to consolidate your thoughts. You're just talking for 25 minutes straight, and that just is what it is. Back to the group. I still can't remember TL's jungler. For Santorin. Thank God. I think that probably took like 2 minutes for me to remember Santorin exists. Wow. That's sad. That's really sad. 100 Thieves in this group could very easily take second. I'm not going to say that they take first. I think TL has first wrapped up and bow tied for him. But I think the difference between TL and Cloud9 in groups is that I don't see a team that can challenge Cloud9 and give them a really close game. Whereas Team Liquid could have really close games against both TSM and 100 Thieves, and I'll even throw in CLG if CLG performs really well, because not saying that CLG is great. I mean, all their players, I would say, are B tier and are decent, but if for some reason they mesh really well together and you just ride that momentum for a tournament, it could happen. Now, for an entire season, absolutely not, but for 3 weekends of a tournament, yeah, it could easily happen. 100%. I think they'll struggle in best of fives, but I don't know. We'll see. Golden Guardians, I want them to play well, because I so badly want to see the college esports scene succeed. But these two players that are coming in from the University of Maryville are not set up to succeed at all. Like, that's just plain and simple. Final predictions for Group A before I go into the next topic. I'm going to say Team Liquid 1. I'm going to put my own personal bias there and say 100 Thieves second, TSM third, CLG fourth. So that would set up for a first round match of Cloud9 versus CLG. On the opposite side of the bracket, Dignitas versus TL. Then it would be 100 Thieves versus FlyQuest, and then TSM versus Evil Geniuses. I think you have two really good series in the middle there, with FlyQuest and 100 Thieves and TSM EG. I don't think either of the 1 seed games are close. Realistically, unless we see something from Group A where TL can be challenged by 100 Thieves or TSM, we're not really going to have a close best of 5 from like 2 top teams until finals, when it's likely TL and C9. But if TSM or 100 Thieves, or I'm not going to throw FlyQuest or Evil Geniuses in there, if TSM or 100 Thieves perform decently well, you could have an interesting semifinal matchup as well, so long as one of them would have to end up on the C9 side of the bracket. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm really curious to see how this goes. I'm also really curious, to segue this on to the next topic, I'm really curious to see how the LCS does this year in terms of production, in terms of talent, viewership, and like the league itself, not necessarily anything limited to just like players or performance. Because quite frankly, I'm sorry, I don't give as much of a shit about World's performance, because the reality is we are not going to win in the next probably 2 to 3 years minimum. We just don't have the talent pipeline. We don't have the eyeballs on the scene to make us super competitive. The game isn't the most popular in North America, so you're not pumping players into this like Fortnite is. I don't see us contending for Worlds. What I want to see And what I think our goal should be is to get 2 teams out of groups. I think that's reasonable. We get 2 teams out of groups and then just get smashed in, quarterfinals by the 1 seeds. I'm fine with that. I really am. I think like that is the reasonable expectation going into this year. Is that going to happen? Cloud9 and TL could make it. I don't know who would be third between TSM, Evil Geniuses, FlyQuest, 100 Thieves. We will see. I'm hoping 100 Thieves, but we'll go from there. Now, how does that impact North America as a whole? The LEC builds a lot of narrative within the region in regards to both hyping up to international play, but also playing off rivalries that are domestic. So obviously, every time G2 and Fnatic play, it's hype regardless, because they're always going to be the top 2 teams in the region and everybody else is just kind of competing otherwise. With North America, while we can focus on the international narrative, I think it's a mistake too, because unless you have a team like Cloud9, okay, actually I'm going to take that example perfectly. We hyped up Cloud9 so much as the saviors of our region of, everything that was going to help us and going to fix us going forward. They were leading the change. They were doing all this nice stuff. They win Spring Split. Everybody's high. How are they going to do? We never got to see them at MSI, which I think would have, had they gotten smashed at MSI, I think we actually would have felt better about C9 falling off and other teams stepping up. But we didn't get to see it. Cloud9 dropped off, and the whole narrative around the league, just, not even the narrative, the morale around North American LCS just plummeted. As Cloud9 fell, the narrative fell with it. And I don't want to see us falling into that same mistake this year, where if one team is really dominant, people are naturally going to, can they compete internationally? Let's check ourselves, okay? I would say let's focus on building the narratives within the region, okay? Cloud9 is trying to redeem themselves. TL is trying to regain glory. And I'm not talking about the MSI tournament. I'm talking about end of year. Like, build the narrative so that the summer split finals, which I don't know why they're still calling the spring finals the finals, or like it should just be the MSI qualifier tournament that's halfway through. It should not count as champions of the split, but for some reason it is. Build the narrative specifically to see who is the best in North America, who's going to take over the throne, and give each team a little bit of a spotlight to try and help boost them up a little bit. Because when I talked about it a little bit last week with the social media following, but I know that's not fully emblematic of everything that's going to be going on for the next, the next year or two, because social media changes so consistently. I mean, how I'm spending the majority of my time uploading on TikTok, which if you would have told me I was going to be doing that 2 years ago, I would have called you absolutely crazy. But it's like, no, do not bark. Do not bark. I know they're... Coco, don't bark. No. Here, take your toy. Keep it quiet. Where even was I? I think I was on... Oh yeah, building social media narratives, uploading the TikTok, etc. It's developing a good social media following, and one that is actually true to a brand and true to players, is very difficult. When you look at TSM and you look at what they did during their rise, and which is comparable to what Optic did back at the 60-50 house, we have not seen something like that since. And the reality is, I just don't think we're going to. The days of that happening, it was very grassroots. which cannot happen nowadays because we are developing out franchise leagues. The responsibility now falls on organizations growing and making a name for themselves, even outside of winning. We don't have regionalization in the LCS to rely upon. You cannot sit here and say, oh, New York City has a team, which is complete crap. But you can't rely on that anymore. So what do you have to do to distinguish yourself? It's really hard, arguably not fully impossible, but all the methods that we know in terms of lifestyle brands and things outside of gaming at the moment have already been done by people like 100 Thieves, like NRG trying to do, casual content, etc. And I've already made my stance clear on why the LCS should pick them up, say drop Immortals, but that's beside the point. Developing a social media following is not easy, but now is the time where the narrative is going to shift to being about the teams and not the players. And I want to see the broadcast reflect that as well. And you see a lot of people, like, for example, when it was last year with 100 Thieves, it was Someday and Company. That's fine, but oh my God, this construction is freaking killing me. In Pennsylvania and dealing with construction on a Sunday. What? Do that during the week. They didn't do it all week. Anyways, oh God, I keep getting this. I'm sorry, this podcast is really, really scuffed today, but that's the limitations of being in Pennsylvania. No computer, no guest. It's very scuffed, and I get that. And Coco's back to trying to hump my foot. So yeah, we're right back to where we started. I don't know how they're going to do it, which I appreciate the talent expansion that we have for the upcoming split. I like the changes, bringing in Alorum, bringing in Emily, bringing in quite a few others that should help freshen up the narrative. But I don't want to see us fall into the trap of one player gets really good and we focus on them. That's fine, but we need to build out the teams first. I'll use the Steelers, for example. As Chase Claypool emerges as a star figure within the organization, you want to have it be when somebody asks you, what do you think of the Steelers? You think of that person. Very rarely do people associate anything with a team. If I ask people what they associate with Immortals, nobody's going to know. If I ask people what they associate with FlyQuest is an interesting example because you would associate green initiatives, etc., stuff like that, which surprisingly didn't net any notable social media presence outside of just doing a bunch of good stuff for charity. So while good intentioned, I feel like that's actually kind of a failure of an initiative in a way, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's going to be hard. Trying to figure out how to push teams versus players is difficult when you still have the majority of your same talent that are used to thinking the same way. And I'm hoping that the new people coming in do change that. But I don't know. I'm not 100% sold. But I'm going to wrap up this scuffness. I have to drive to New York this upcoming weekend to go pick up my PC. I'm going to try and film as much content as I can there. Quick update on social media stuff. I now have my most followers on any social media platform ever on TikTok. And it's been a blast. I've been creating 2 videos a day, every day. I've got 7 stockpiled, so I can just pump out stuff if I don't create anything for the next day. But it's I've been having a blast with TikTok. And I got a comment last night that it was on a League video, and somebody said, I don't even know anything about League, but I just watch because your idea or the way you do things is interesting. It's nice because I was worried about when the LCS started, whether things would get dry or not. And I want to have a consistent thing that I can do and always be uploading stuff, but I don't want to lose the element of it that I absolutely love. Because 2 videos a day, even though it's TikTok, I'm not doing dance content. I'm not doing anything that's like really kind of dumbed down and easy to put out. I'm putting out, for the most part, things that it takes me like 5 minutes to flush out an idea. If I'm talking about Group A and I'm putting out a video there, I've put in a little bit of time trying to come up with a concept and the idea and narrative that I want to push and find the clip, etc., and go from there. It's a lot. It's not necessarily incredibly difficult. YouTubers have it by far the worst, which I do not. I don't know how Casey Neistat did it. I mean, I guess if you live a fairly interesting life, vlogging your life every day can be fairly good. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm a nerd. I'm your stereotypical just gamer, geek, nerd, accountant guy that I like. There's some stuff that I might do, like whenever New York City opens back up with the league events and everything else there, I might start trying to get that involved in some capacity and maybe doing some IRL stuff at some point. But the staple is this microphone, so I'm limited to what I can do with this microphone for decent audio quality, because I hate whenever videos sound like trash. It's just ear piercing to me. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. Anyways, I've been talking long enough. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave any comments with your thoughts on the lock-in tournament, on TikTok, on anything, you name it. Be sure to follow me on TikTok as well. Drop a like, subscribe. You guys know the deal. Hit me up if you got any requests for any topics that you ever want me to talk about, any guests that you want coming up, because I will have my computer here soon, and I plan on doing an episode with Zebra. Zebra, if you're watching this, get ready. We're finally going to start recording something consistently. Yeah, that's about it. So I will catch you guys later. Have a good one. Peace out. Goodbye.